And we're live. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to another episode of the Steelers postgame show. We apologize for the late start of the show, but we had some technical difficulties with our third-party streaming service. We're glad to be here. Finally got through. Joining me, as always, to talk about this 20-13 Steelers win, Week 13 over the Cleveland Browns, is my boy Lance Williams, who's rocking the mask, everybody. What's going on, Lance?
The mask is back, baby. We apologize for StreamYard. They have tryptophan sickness as well. Technical tryptophan. They were on their slow to get started game, but as you see, it's been a successful weekend for my teams. My Cal Bears, you know it. You know the story. Tell the whole darn world this is Bear territory. They beat UCLA, and your Pittsburgh Steelers get their revenge.
Well, this is not a Pac-12 show, so let's stop with that nonsense. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I would say do the unthinkable, and it's not just beat the Browns, it's how they beat the Browns. It's with an offense led by Devlin Hodges, no Marquise Pouncey, no Juju Smith-Schuster, no James Conner. Players are making big plays in so many different ways. You have James Washington, I think, has stepped up in a huge way the last few weeks. Devlin Hodges said in his post-game press conference today that it's because of their unbelievable relationship off the field doing what? Duck hunting. That is legitimately duck hunting.
Seriously?
That is serious. He said that every off day they go duck hunting. He and Washington and a couple other guys, and that's kind of what they, that's how they've created a bond. Washington's making some phenomenal plays, we'll put it that way. And so the Steelers find a way to score 20 points. None of them were defensive points. And the Steelers defense, for the first time in a long time, got to play football with a two-score lead. Lance, I'd like to know what your knee-jerk reactions were to this game as the Steelers moved to 7-5.
Man, I'm gonna echo Coach Tomlin in his post conference because I'm listening to those now, Jeff. I'm trying to be a true journalist here. I'm just going to not to get too analytical into it. This was just a really good win. And that's sort of what Tomlin said in his press conference, that this was just a really good win. AFC North football. And this is just a gritty win where you're winning in all phases. This was just a tough AFC North gritty physical win, and this is how they're going to have to win games moving forward, where they're going to have to minimize mistakes. They got to get the penalties down. They got to minimize mistakes, and they're going to have to grit these games out and really win on their defense and put their defense in some position to close these games out and win games. Great AFC North win. They stay in playoff contention. I think they eliminate the Browns from playoff contention. It can't get any better than that.
Absolutely. So when they moved to 7-5, and they being the Steelers, they knocked the Browns to 5-7, and they've got a tough road to hoe as well as they finish out. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point in time, they're 7-5. They are currently in that 6th seed, no matter what happens with the Raiders and the Chiefs that are playing right now, or the Chargers and the Broncos. They have that 6th spot as they now prepare for Week 14 against a trip to the desert to play the Arizona Cardinals. And we'll talk about that a lot this week, but let's talk about this game. Lance, I want to know let's talk about who you thought might have been on the wrong side of the ledger in terms of losers for this game, because I think some of the winners will be obvious. I mentioned James Washington, but was there anyone on that particularly stood out as, man, they just didn't play that well?
I'm thinking of Vance McDonald, a couple of false start penalties, Matt Filer, a couple of first down penalties, a couple of curious play calls, I think, by Randy Fichtner late in the game. I'm also going to hit Deontay Johnson by not staying in bounds. But I don't want to be too hard. They won the game, but those are some of the guys that really jumped out to me. Deontay Johnson's boneheaded play at the end of the game, I think, was really bad. You just have to know the situation. You have to stay in bounds, and you've got to get 30 seconds off the clock. Randy Fichtner, the pass play late in the game, hand the ball off, get another 30 seconds there. I think those are just inexcusable. Luckily for the Steelers, they won the game. Vance McDonald's false starts were pretty bad. He made up for it with a big third down catch. But, those were some of the plays that they have to eliminate out of their DNA. With a guy like Doug Hodges playing quarterback, you got to play cleaner football. But, hey, what do we always say, Jeff? Winning correct.
Absolutely. And, unlike last week's Week 12 win over the Bengals, where you're kind of like, boy, this was ugly. I didn't think this was an ugly win. I thought the Steelers, although they had a rough start on offense, Randy Fichtner is a glaring loser for me, and he's always been a loser for probably about the past 10 weeks. But for me, I looked at this game and said, you know what? The Pittsburgh Steelers, this is who they are. And if they can put up 20 points a week, they're going to win a lot of games. Now, Lance, you have the numbers, right? Since Minkah Fitzpatrick was acquired, what are they putting up in terms of points per game?
So we're going to classify, I think, this defense pre-Minkah, post-Minkah. Unfortunately, it's PM, so we have to say pre or post-Minkah. Pre-Minkah, they gave up 30.5 points per game. Post-Minkah, they're giving up 16.4. That is we're just going to say a 15-point difference. 2 touchdown difference since Minkah Fitzpatrick has been on this football team. And to Jeff's point, 20 minus 16 is 4. You do the math. If this defense could continue to play games like this and continue to turn the ball over and get sacks, that's the recipe for them to win. Don't kill us, as Mike Tomlin again said in the post-game presser.
Yes, and Devlin Hodges, there was a miscommunication with Deontay Johnson on the interception. I was wondering why they were throwing the ball in the first place, which you mentioned earlier. And for me, what about Benny Snell? Benny No Jets is he starting to create his own niche within the Steelers offense?
And I want to apologize for Benny No Jets. He's going to keep the nickname until he gets a little more lateral quickness. But, me being, a 49-year-old guy from the north side, 15212, 15233, being rooted in Steeler football, growing up during the curtain, I should be able to appreciate Beanie Snell type running backs a little bit better. And I'm going to go out and say this, Jeff. I'm going to go a little hyperbole. I think the best run of this season was the first down run that Beanie Snell had when the Steelers, I believe, had the ball on the 2-yard line to get a first down. That's the best run that the Steelers have had this year. You don't get that run, this game could turn out differently.
Well, it was at the half-yard line because remember Filer had a false start.
Yes.
And they bumped it back even more, which that was a blown call, by the way, by the officials. There's some questionable calls in this game by the officiating crew. One of them was how I feel like that should have been a touchback and not down at the 1-yard line. But you know what? Benny Snell, that was a beautiful run. You saw a little bit of nasty out of David DeCastro. I tweeted that after the game. I said, you're starting to see nasty David DeCastro back. That's a good thing for the Steelers running game, and he was paving the way. Vodka Drinker puts $5 in the tip jar. He said, let's give Finney a good round of applause and a replacement role for Marquise Pouncey's 2-game suspension. Pouncey will be back with the team next week as they go out to the desert to play the Cardinals. But hey, Finney is kind of like, I listened to some pregame, the Steelers Nation radio, and Dale Lawley said that Finney is the Chris Hoke of this current team, a great backup who can come in and win. I think Chris Hoke said had an 18-1 record as a starter.
They went 15-1. Yeah,
when
they went 15-1 that year.
When Casey Hampton went down with an ACL tear, he came in and played well. So kudos to BJ Finney. But Mike Tomlin put it well when they asked him about it in his press conference. He said, "Look, Finney's been here a long time. We know how valuable he is. We have full faith in him to be able to get the job done." There's a lot of people, myself included, that feel that BJ Finney might be a better run blocker than Marquise Pouncey is. So kudos to him.
And that's why he got the contract. He got a contract extension a couple of years ago, right?
Well, they gave him a pretty high tender, and we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So, they gave him some money. Let's hear. Sean Manahan puts $2 in the tip jar and says, why aren't refs held accountable? I would like to know an explanation as to why Bud Dupree's hit on Baker Mayfield in the fourth quarter was flagged as unnecessary roughness or roughing the pass or however you want to call it. Because Lance, you and I both talked as we were waiting for these technical difficulties to kind of fix themselves. I didn't see anything egregious. You agree or disagree?
Man, it looked like football to me. Last time I checked,
he had just delivered the pass.
But you know what that was, Jeff? That was the history that happened a couple of weeks ago. And so I think but at that point, the game was late in the game. The game had been pretty clean. I think that was a quick trigger.
Well, you flagged that in the first quarter, and I understand it. You flag it in the fourth when you're only up by a touchdown and they have a chance to drive and tie the game. Totally disagree with that. But anyways, Darren Dalton puts $2 in the tip jar and says, new shirt idea, Steelers started it and finished it. I actually reached out to our t-shirt company and said, we should have a Pittsburgh finished it shirt. That would play really well in the next 48 hours. Let's see what we can get done. I don't know. We'll see. Lance, you have the game book up, right?
Yeah, I do.
All right,
Let's go through
I do have the game book up. Throw some numbers our way.
We're gonna. You brought up Beanie Snell Jr. I should say Benny Snell Jr. Call him Beanie, unfortunately. Snell Jr. 16 carries, 63 yards. Again, Benny Snell was the leading rusher for the Pittsburgh Steelers with an average of 3.9, a long run of 14, and 1 touchdown. Benny Snell Jr. Maybe I can stop saying no Jets. Not yet, but again, Benny Snell, solid game.
I'm starting to I'm starting to see the Pittsburgh Steelers backfield once James Conner's healthy, and there are people that want James Conner gone, and that's just stupid because he, when healthy, and I don't think he is the every down back that some people expected him to be, but when he's healthy, it's one of those situations where if you could have Conner as your primary, Snell to come in and spell him more often, almost by running back by committee, and Jalen Samuels is a good third down back. He's that Mewelde Moore type, whereas Brian Anthony Davis said on the other night, the Veron Haynes type. So you like the way this is going to shape up for the Steelers once James Conner returns?
I do. And I think when you have a quarterback, Devlin Duck Hodges, we all love Duck, Ducky, Ducky, Quack, Quack. We love Duck. He's a young guy, man. He needs as many offensive weapons as possible, period. Anytime you can get a starter back on offense or any good offensive player back to support him, you need that person back. It's all hands on deck when you have an undrafted rookie playing quarterback for you. So if he comes back, it's a great look for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopefully Juju comes back as well. The more healthy bodies that they can get back on offense, it's a good thing.
Can we just stop for a minute and just think about what you just said with a third string quarterback? This team is winning football games. They are in playoff position heading into week 14, 7-5. At one time, they were 0-3, 1-4. A tremendous, tremendous effort by so many people, from coaches down to the team. This team really feels like a cohesive group. My wife asked me today during the game, do the players seem to like Devlin Hodges? And I said, well, yeah, but they like Mason Rudolph too. I think they all like each other. I think then you got rid of Mr. Third and Fifth and Butt Naked and Robbed. They're a really cohesive group, a really good team, and I say that intentionally.
Let me ask you a question before I give you another number in the game book.
Sure.
As an aside, if the Steelers make the playoffs, should Mike Tomlin be coach of the year?
Now, people like yourself downplayed how tremendous this coaching effort is because he's won a Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl with a lights-out defense, a pretty loaded offense, a franchise quarterback. He's winning with a pretty legitimate defense. Keep that in mind. But an offense that has just been decimated. I would say that this season is every bit as impressive to me as that Super Bowl season, except they're going to have to do some damage in the playoffs. So, yes, if they make the playoffs, awesome. I think he should be in consideration. I don't think he would ever win it. He may get a couple votes, but you look at the logistics, and not a lot of people know about this, Lance, because no one's talking about the Steelers unless there's a big splash like the Myles Garrett, Mason Rudolph fiasco or anything like that. No one's talking about Pittsburgh. They're a middle of the road team. They're 7-5. They might talk about them a little bit now, but if they can continue on this path, keep winning football games, they're now back in the stacking wins department with 2 in a row. Don't you think he has to get some consideration?
Well, listeners, if you've listened to our show, you know Jeff is joy, I'm pain. But see, we're going to morph right now.
And Hater and Homer.
So I'm going to be joy with this particular take. If Mike Tomlin gets this team to the playoffs, you should be coach of the year. Flat out. You start 3 different quarterbacks and you make the playoffs, you should get coach of the year. Flat out. It just does not happen often. And dare I say, and I know there's some stat guys, some stat geeks out here on the live chat. I don't think that would have ever been done in the National Football League history where you start 3 different quarterbacks and you make the playoffs. I mean, I'm used to Elias pulling it up. Elias will have it if the Steelers indeed qualify for the playoffs. Elias will pull it up. But I'd riddle me this: if it's happened, it's only been once or twice. I mean, it's something that does not happen. I mean, you are starting an undrafted quarterback. I mean, our undrafted rookie quarterback has won, what is it, 3 games this year?
Well, he's won 2 starts at Los Angeles against the Chargers, then this week, and then he came in relief and he won the game. Technically, yeah, he won the game against the Bengals because they were trailing and they had to come back. So you could notch 3 wins to his record.
I mean, that alone, I mean, you get 3 wins from an undrafted rookie and you go to the playoffs. I mean, look, that should be coach of the year. I don't think that will stop the criticism of Mike Tomlin by Steeler fans, but I think that would be deserving of coach of the year. Let me give you another set of numbers, Jeff. James Washington, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 111 yards. Look at this, Jeff. He averaged 27.8 yards per catch with a long of 44 and a touchdown. The young man is starting to feel himself, and he's starting to play some quality football.
Yeah, it's do you get the feeling, and maybe this is just me, I'm not sure, that they just weren't throwing him the ball. You just got to give him a chance. The guy, he's making some phenomenal plays. Your thoughts on that? I mean, that he's just getting some targets compared to very minimal.
You know, he's still not getting a lot of targets either. I just think he's finding himself. I mean, sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer. I think we're spoiled because the wide receiver position is a position where we've seen guys come in the league and make quick splashes and be dominant guys very early. You know, maybe it took him just a little bit of time, and it took a little bit of trust that had to be developed between Ben Roethlisberger and him, as well as the coaching staff and the organization with him. But I think now, if anything, out of this year, even if the Steelers don't make the playoffs or all that, some questions are being answered. Like, is he a solid number 2 wide receiver? I think that question has been answered. Bingo. Yes, absolutely, indeed. He could be a number 2 guy. I think the question of, do the Steelers have a quality backup quarterback, is being answered. So even if the Steelers don't make it, some questions are being answered. But yes, I think it's just a case of him getting more opportunities and him being more comfortable as a professional. But he's flat out balling right now, and he is the go-to guy in the passing game.
You know, someone that we both trust a lot, we've had him on the show before, that's Jim Wexell of SteelCityInsider.com. He tweeted out during the game that he was happy to see Washington start seeing some success based on how great he's been practicing. He said that especially in the red zone, he's been a monster in practice. And so he was glad to see him start to take that from the practice field to the game field. But before we get to any more numbers, I want to get some live super chats out here. Crazy Chris puts $1.99 in the tip jar and says, those Baker Mayfield commercials at the end were so funny after the loss. They are funny commercials. I hate to say that. But there you go. Sean Manahan puts $2 in the tip jar. He says, false start on Duck Hodges. That was the first time I've ever seen that. He didn't move. There was no hard, hands are moving or heads moving. I don't know what that was, Lance, and maybe you can help me.
I don't know. That's a bad call. I mean, that's just a bad call. That was terrible.
Yes, that was very terrible. So, all right, as I'm getting caught up here in the live chat, Lance, why don't you go to the next number?
Let me give you another number, 5. The number 5. 5 sacks in this game. The Steelers got 1 sack against Cleveland a couple of weeks ago. They got that number to 5. They had 5 sacks. They had 6 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback hits. They get a turnover in the game, and it looks like this defense is back to hunting, and it looks like Bud Dupree and TJ Watt are their normal selves. They just keep getting it done week in and week out. And I think this defense again is proving to fans and to itself and to the organization that it's for real. It's the truth.
The defense was humming, and it's Bud Dupree. Can you seriously, Lance, think about this? Can you think of a team or a unit or a pass rushing duo that's better than Watt and Dupree right now in the National Football League?
Not right now, and I'd have to check some numbers, but the only duo I come to think of is Ingram and Bosa up in San Diego. But right now,
LA.
or LA, excuse me. We got to get that wrong consistently. Man, it's always going to be San Diego to me. I'm of the age where
I
it's
get,
never
I
going to
get
be LA. But Stud and TJ, that's a traveling show. Let me give them Bud Dupree's numbers: 4 tackles, 2 assisted, 6 combined, a sack and a half, 2 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, a pass defense. Stud is playing for his money, Jeff. And maybe we should do a stat pre-stud, pre-stud and post-stud, or dud and stud, like some stats of
like an alter ego almost.
Yeah, like when did he become stud? What game did he become stud?
I think he had a good game early on. It might have been week 3 on Monday Night Football, and I said if he has another one of those, I'll get rid of dud and call him stud, and he did. He has 8.5 sacks now, I believe, on the year. It's a career high for him. TJ Watt, what did he have? 1.5 or just 1?
He just had 1. I think TJ has like 13, maybe.
Yes, 13 or 13.5. And so, man, that they're going to get double digits. And then you have Cam Hayward, who he registered at least a half a sack today. Right.
Let me look at the game. But Cam Hayward had 3 tackles, 3 assisted. He had 6 tackles. He had a half sack. He had a tackle for loss, and he had a quarterback hit, and he had that big fumble recovery.
Hargrave is eating Hargrave, to me, impressed me the most in the second half. Baker Mayfield had nowhere to go because he couldn't step up into the pocket because Hargrave was basically putting up shop in the backfield, and then the 2 tandems on the outside were just crashing down on him.
Let me give you his numbers. He had 3 tackles, 3 assisted, 6 combined tackles. He had a sack, he had a tackle for loss, and he had a quarterback hit. And let me ask you this, Jeff. I mean, we've talked about it several times. The Steelers got some work to do in the offseason. It feels like they're going to have to franchise Stud, and they're going to have to sign Hargrave to a contract. They have some duos on this team that you have to keep together. You've got to keep the Gravedigger and Cam Hayward together. You've got to get TJ and Stud together, and you got to keep and TJ and Stud. Those are the 2. You got to keep those guys together. And this defense right now, I mean, it's humming. It's young. It's talented. You got to keep these guys together. They got to open that checkbook.
They're going to have to. Thankfully, Mr. Third and Fifth's money is off the books next year, and they should have a little bit more space than they normally do. A couple super chats here, Lance, before you get to your next stat. Snowman puts $5 in the tip jar, says, what's with the non-call on the Duck Hodges hit in the fourth quarter? I think he's talking about the play where he threw the ball away, where he could have just literally taken a knee and killed the clock, but he didn't do that. Did you think that was egregious enough to warrant a flag?
No. I think that would have been a bad call, just like the call on Baker Mayfield was. I mean, some of this is football, man. I think, guys expose themselves and guys take hits. I mean, that's what happens in football. I thought that would have been a bad call had they called that.
Okay, $9.99 in the tip jar from Grayson. He says a win's a win, but he's like Lance. He's a hater. The D got picked on a bit. The offensive coordinator is still terrible. Offensive woes remain. You can't win games like this on the road in the playoffs. I've always been of the ilk that defense can travel.
Absolutely.
And if this defense can continue to play the way that they are, that they can win anywhere. Now, you could talk about specific matchups, like if they had to go to Kansas City or if they had to go to Houston, blah, blah, blah. We were not going to talk about that right now. But, Lance, your thoughts on this Grayson's hater comments, which are right up your alley. This is right in your wheelhouse.
Hey, Homer. # Homer. Never disrespect the super chatters. Grayson, you are absolutely right. But you do touch on some points, Grayson, I think. And I was chatting back and forth on Twitter with Carter Critiques, our friend Chris Carter. The run fits were pretty bad, I thought, in the first half. And Mike Tomlin spoke to it. That's one of the things that they said that they talked about with the third quarter adjustments. Their adjustments post-halftime was that they wanted to get the run fits right. And I thought the run fits were a little bit inconsistent, and they were getting gouged. I think in the game, if I'm looking at the game book, Kareem Hunt had 7 carries for 46 yards. And in the game, Cleveland ran it 24 times for 106 yards for 4.4 yards per carry. I think
that's inflated. They had a lot of those yards at the end of the first half. But go
That was
ahead.
in the first half, but I thought they had to get some of that adjusted. And I think when the Steelers are getting gouged a little bit in the run game, it's alignment. It's not personnel. It's how they are aligning their front. And sometimes the way they align it, they can get walled off and make it easy for linemen to get to the second level on linebackers. So I think they can clean that up, Grayson. That wouldn't be an issue. Let me jump into a couple numbers here, Jeff. I had to move up a little bit on my game book here. The Browns were 4 of 12 on third down, as opposed to the Steelers, who were 4 of 10 for 40%. They held the Browns to 33% on third down. Here's another big stat here, is that the Browns only average 4.4 yards per play. That's outstanding. And the Steelers, opposite, in turn, averaged 6.0 yards per play, or 6 yards per play. Those are big stats. I think to hold a team as talented offensively with their personnel as Cleveland to 4.4 yards per play, I think that was outstanding by this defense.
You look at the offensive percentage that you just talked about, and I'm going to kind of spin this towards the offense. It's just what I do. This offense is becoming, it's such, like I've said it before, it's such a delicate group. Pre-snap penalties are killers. Tackles for losses are killers. Stuff like that. They're just not handled, equipped so much. But it looked like with Devlin Hodges, a quarterback, they might be a little bit more equipped to handle some of those negative plays. But they're becoming a team that the players have to step up and make the play when it presents themselves, more so than in the past. You think about when Mr. Third and Fifth and Butt Naked and Rod were still on the team, and you could almost feel like, okay, if there was a drop, that's okay. They're going to make up for it. This team, this offense does not have that right now. Probably doesn't have that this year, even when Juju Smith-Schuster returns to the lineup. You saw some tremendous catches in tremendous spots by some really key players, like Tevin Jones's catch was huge down the middle. And Greedy Williams hits him early from behind. He still hauls it in. Those are the type of plays you have to make. Superman had one catch, Deion Kane, and he made that play. He got the first down, moved the chains. Nick Vannett made that one play on that rollout that got him inside the 10-yard line. Benny Snell is making plays when he's presented. This is what this offense is. It doesn't have to be perfect, but when these plays, James Washington making the big catch down the sideline with a free play, the other touchdown reception, these are the plays they have to make. And when Deontay Johnson displays that brain fart, where whatever he saw and Devlin Hodges saw differently turned into, what was it, Lance? At least the 18th game in a row that the Pittsburgh
19th.
Did you go back and double check?
It was 19.
So 19 straight games the Steelers have turned it over. You know what the funny thing was? I was just thinking before that play, I think the streak might end. Because I'm thinking they're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. You hold on to the football, you punt the ball away, play to your strengths. That's what you talked about a bunch. And there you go. The streak continues. Now, that play didn't hurt them because of the defense and Hargrave's sack. But, man, this offense is trending, I think, at least right now. They're trending in the right direction.
Let me give you a number to support what you're talking about, and then I'll give you my last number. Steelers had 10 penalties in this game for 65 yards. And to your point, they've got to just really try to focus on playing really clean football, because the offense is very delicate, to use the term that you used. 65 penalty yards, that just hurts this offense. Any penalty yards, not playing clean football. Now, some of those penalty yards are defensive penalty yards, obviously, but 10 penalties in a game, they've got to clean this up. But let me give you my last stat here. Average gain per pass play, which includes the number of thrown passing. The Browns, 4.4, the Steelers, 9.0. You're averaging, if you're at 9.0 in that stat, you're going to win football games, and that's a good number to look at if you want to see some light at the end of the tunnel, as Jeff is speaking about, with this offense that is trending up. I think they found a formula, and I asked you, Jeff, a couple of shows ago, have they found a formula on offense? Start establishing the run, not turning over the football, and just making some plays on third down as you can get it, some safe throws, some conservative stuff, but really this offense being geared to trying to possess the ball, trying to not turn it over, and kind of be aggressively conservative. Is that their identity on offense?
It has to be. It has to be. And they were fortunate enough to get a lead today. And once they got the 2-score lead, you kind of got the feeling that the defense is going to be able to pin their ears back because the Browns are going to have to throw it to get back in it. My question for you is, Lance, this is something that Dave Schofield brought up on Twitter as well as in a group text during the game. And that is, if it weren't for the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half where Devlin Hodges came out and just was throwing the ball, are the Steelers winning this football game?
No, they're not. They're not going to win. They're not going to win the game.
Absolutely not. Because
that drive, that drive changed the whole momentum. And you're right, to the point of trust. They were kind of look. I mean, look. We saw the post game press conference a couple of days, or the Tuesday press conference from a couple of days ago when the head coach said, "Look, just don't kill us." And, I've always poo-pooed press conferences because I'm like, whatever, man, them guys are just talking. I've never saw the importance of press conferences really until this year. You can really glean themes of how a coach is really thinking and what they're kind of going to do. Mike Tomlin put the edict out early in the week, man. We just don't want this guy to kill us. So he's sending a flat out message to the coaching staff. We're going to be conservative. We're going to play to this defense, which I don't think is a mistake. But to your point, Jeff, there is nuance in how you can do that. And I think our struggle with Randy Fichtner is finding the nuance and how to play #aggressively conservative.
Well, we saw another tremendous 2nd and 12 draw play, which really got me excited. I think it was a no-gain play. It's ridiculous. But the thing is Devlin Hodges said in his post-game press conference, I was able to hear some of his comments as we were waiting for StreamYard to get their act together. And he said it was that sequence of plays that got him comfortable. So if you're Randy Fichtner and your quarterback is telling you, look, I have to throw the ball some to get into a rhythm, to get comfortable, then why in the world are you, A, not asking that question and knowing that answer, or B, doing it? That's what I don't get. Randy Fichtner is a giant loser for this game for me. Biggest loser of all goes to Randy Fichtner, and I'm not one. Lance, you know this. We've been doing this a long time. I am not one to throw a coordinator under the bus unless I feel it's necessary. And I feel it's necessary. I just don't think he has a good grasp on how to manipulate this offense without Ben Roethlisberger. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. I think the best description of it is that he's the coordinator for Ben Roethlisberger / the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. He's the coordinator because of Ben Roethlisberger's vouch. And this is no knock to Ben. You want your guy. You want the coordinator that understands how you think, because the thought is this is pretty much your offense and how you want to run it. So you want a guy that knows what you're comfortable with, that can get you into a rhythm. But to his credit, or not to his credit, just to defend Randy Fichtner just a wee bit, he's working with some really inexperienced young players. However, at this point in time, and Tomlin kind of talked about it in his post-game press conference, they should know Devlin Hodges a little bit better now. Give him some #2 a.m. throws to get him into rhythm. He needs some 2 a.m. He needs some 2 a.m. just take it plays to get into rhythm, to get his juices flowing, because you saw Duck play completely different in the second half once he had established some rhythm and some confidence. One improvement that Duck's going to have to be coached up is stepping up into the pocket instead of escaping right comfortably, because he's killing some time that he has in the pocket if he would just slide and or step up and not try to escape to his right. Teams are going to see that, and they're going to force him to step up, and that's going to have to be an evolution of his game.
Absolutely agree 100%, especially about the pocket presence, which it's going to be an issue for young quarterbacks in general. We saw it with Mason Rudolph. We're seeing it with Devlin Hodges. But Devlin Hodges, the difference is he has athleticism to run the football. He scrambled for a first down, had another designed run later in the game. We have a couple super chats, or at least one to get to. Tristan puts $2 in the tip jar, says the Steelers beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Just watch. Lance, if that were to happen, what would you do?
I would call my brother, who's a Patriot fan. I would put it on speaker and just rip him for an hour consecutively. I would say every epithet known to man possible and rip him to shreds. Well, that's what I would do.
You got to do what you got to do. All right, so Jesse George puts $1.99 in the tip jar and says Lance has to pick against us the rest of the year. Well, let me be honest. He'll do that on his own, folks, so don't have to worry about that. But with that said, let me say that I'm the only one that picked the Steelers in this game, and that includes the Steelers preview show. Lance picked against them. Dave Schofield picked against them. Brian Anthony Davis picked against them. I was the only one that had the cojones to stand behind the flipping team, and they paid off big time.
I'm gonna give Chris Carter hashtag Carter Critiques on Twitter. I'm gonna give him credit too, because he's a member of the family as well. We've done so many shows with Chris. He's the guy. He picked the Steelers to win 17-10.
Ooh, that was close. I said 27-20. I wasn't too far off either. A couple scores, and I'd have been right there. So there you have it, folks. At this time, let's get to some questions. I'll put that in the live chat here. See if we have any questions for the show. And I hope they're not about clothing. I've never been so sick and tired of hearing about, oh my gosh, Freddie Kitchens wore a Pittsburgh Started It shirt to see the Fred Rogers movie. Oh my gosh, not only did he wear it in public, but he wore it to the Fred Rogers movie, and Fred Rogers is from Pittsburgh, and oh my gosh. And then Jarvis Landry showing up with a revenge sweatshirt, and then free Pouncey shirts in the pit. I'm literally getting ready to watch this game thinking, are we really talking about what these guys are wearing this in depth? This is insane.
Yes, we are.
Insane. It's a t-shirt. Who cares? I don't care. I really don't. They could wear whatever they want that says whatever they want. Heck, the Pouncey brothers wore free Aaron Hernandez hats after Aaron Hernandez was arrested. I mean, we're talking about apples and oranges in that regard, but still, I mean, my gosh, this is unbelievable. So,
speaking of t-shirts, Jeff, I got a t-shirt idea when you talk to the t-shirt guy. Hashtag obviously.
Hey, that would be a good one. There you go. Let's see here. Here we go. Got some questions here. Is Duck better than what we thought? That's from Wes Hickok, longtime viewer of the show. What are your thoughts there?
Duck is what we thought Duck was.
Oh, nice. You're pulling out a little old school. Denny Green. They are who we thought they were.
Nice catch, Jeff.
So if you want to crown them, crown their ass. All right. All right. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, someone just asked about Fred Rogers. I'm not answering that question. Here's a good question from Mark Tobin. If the defender does not turn around to play the ball in the air and face guards, is this not pass interference?
It is not pass interference.
I thought that they had to try and play the football.
No. Let me clear this up. You can face guard in the National Football League. You can face guard. Pass interference is when you make illegal contact with the receiver when the ball is in the air. If you face guard and do not make contact with the receiver, it is not pass interference. Pass interference, it's contact. Contact is the interference, not face guarding.
Okay, Ryan O'Toole says, is this the norm for James Washington at this point?
See, that's what happens, right? And it's a good expectation, right? When you play this well and you've been playing this consistently, it's a good expectation for you, right? Being a star and being a really good player in the National Football League means you play like this consistently and you go out and make plays and you become the man for your football team. I would pump the brakes just a bit. He's still a young player who is finding himself and finding his rhythm in this second year. Ask me this question again next year, and I'll say yes. Next year, I expect James Washington to rip it up.
But when Juju Smith-Schuster returns, it's going to pay huge dividends.
Absolutely.
Because you're not going to be able to double one or the other. And I'm not saying that James Washington is going to have the same impact of Mr. Third and Fifth, what he did, but it's going to be significant to the point where you're like, oh, wow, James Washington is seeing one-on-one coverage or Juju Smith-Schuster is. This offense, like I said, it's trending in the right direction based on health. They did not have any injuries today that of note for the post-game show. I'm telling you, this group could be pretty good, not only for the rest of this year, but even next year if they can get some of their pieces together. Here's a question. Double HH says, how many net takeaways are the Steelers at now? They're on target for 40. Bet the streak of Steelers gifting the ball over continues. Unbelievable. They had, 3 takeaways today, Lance? They had the interception by Hayden. They had the forced fumble, so 2.
Yeah, they had 2.
And last week they had 1, right?
Yeah, they had 2. They had the fumble recovery by Hayward, and they had the interception in the game.
So they had.
So they were.
No.
Okay,
I'm trying
to
think.
+1 today.
Right. I'm thinking about total numbers. They were at 28 before week 12. I think they've had 4 since then. And so that would be 4. I'm just trying to think if this is accurate or not. I want to give the right number. Do you have
Let
it?
me pull up my sheet, Jeff. Go ahead and talk
get
to the
a
question.
couple other questions because they're taking the ball away at a ridiculous clip. I mean, a ridiculous clip. Mark Tobin asks, I can answer this one quick. Is Nick's out for the year? Yes, he was put on injured reserve unless they designate him to return, in which case I'd have to look at when they put him on injured reserve. He has to be at X amount of weeks. So there you go. You got that number yet, Lance?
They had an interception. They had a fumble last week. I actually don't have the number. I just fumbled. I think, but let me give my best guess here. I think because they didn't get an interception last week against the Bengals, did they? But they did get the fumble recovery when Devin Bush caused the fumble. So they are actually, I believe, and somebody can check if I'm wrong, they're at 15 picks and 15 fumble recoveries. So I think as of right now, they might be a +16 is what I'm thinking.
It's a heck of a lot better than where they were last year. I'll tell you that. Let's see here. Chris Lott says, thank you, Lance Hater, for your prediction this week. People are appreciative of you, Lance. Here we go. Who would you rather face in the playoffs if it were to start today, Texans or Chiefs?
Texans. Texans have a bad offensive line. They can get after that offensive line. They cannot beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs will put up enough points to where they just can't beat the Chiefs. Chiefs have that shootout potential every time you play. The Chiefs are tough. So I would say Chiefs, no. I would say Texans, absolutely.
There's no guarantee the Texans even make the playoffs. Watch out for the Tennessee Titans. Just saying. Watch out for the Tennessee Titans.
Texans are going to get beat tonight by the Patriots.
Yeah, and the Titans won. They beat the Colts today.
Yeah.
So don't be so sure that the Texans are in. Let's see here. Rod Young says, do you put Snell over Jalen Samuels until James Conner returns?
No. I think Jalen Samuels should still start. I think he's more versatile, but I think if Connor comes back, I think Jalen Samuels will slot back into his role as the third down back. I think you put Snell as the number 2 back, and I think you split carries there. And in some obvious third down situations, I think you put Jalen Samuels in, but I would still start Samuels over Snell.
Okay. Someone asked, and I'm trying to find it. Here we go. Donald Nolan says, who do you think will be the hardest opponent left on the schedule, assuming the Ravens sit starters as of week 17? So let's talk about this, Lance. Next week at Arizona, come back for their regular season finale at home and likely their last home game of the year against the Buffalo Bills in week 15. Then they go to the New York Jets in week 16. And then
it's obvious. This is obvious. It's the Bills. The Bills are the toughest game outside the Ravens left. The Bills are tough. Bills are a good football team.
This
Bills are really good.
Next week's game scares me to death for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not saying that it's more. I'm not saying that it's scarier than the Bills game. I'm just saying that it's on the road. The Cardinals are this weird team, runs this strange offense that it's just different. It just scares me. I don't know.
And they are getting killed today by the Rams. Yeah, it's the Bills, man. The Bills are a very good team. They don't give up big plays. They're a little bit susceptible against the run. They have a freak show at quarterback that can make every throw possible and imaginable, and they don't give up big plays, and they play good defense. I mean, the Bills are going to be very tough. Um, so I think the Bills obviously are the toughest game remaining on their schedule if the Ravens sit everyone out.
Okay, so the Steelers are 7-5. What does it take to get into the playoffs record wise? 9-7 do it?
9-7. They got to get two
Okay.
more wins because the Bills are at what 9-3 right now.
Yeah, I think so.
And they're gonna have to get 9-7. 10-6 absolutely get you in, but 9-7 I think will get you in. I haven't looked at the Titans' schedule, but just keep winning and it'll take care of itself.
Well, let me bring it up quickly. I wrote this article today. I had everything up to date with the Steelers playoff picture. I've got it right here. The Buffalo Bills remaining opponents that next week they go to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Then they go to they host the Ravens. My apologies. They host the Ravens next week. Then they go to Pittsburgh, at New England, and then finish up against the Jets in week 17. That's tough.
Yeah, that's tough. I
I
mean,
can see they could lose their next 3 games, and if they do, you're thinking that they're going to finish 10-6. In which case, if the Steelers somehow, some way, win 4 of their last 5, they finish 10-6, would have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Bills, and would then have the 5 seed. That's the only way that they're going to be above them.
yeah, I mean, again, just keep winning. You keep winning. We don't have to have these conversations. Win your football games. If they win the next 2 weeks, they're in. If they win the next 2 weeks, they're in, flat out. If they win the next 2 weeks, if they beat Arizona and Buffalo, they're getting in.
But let me just reemphasize this because we just hit 500 people that are watching this live. First and foremost, thank you for watching. We appreciate it. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, set your notifications so you know when we go live. But my gosh, we are talking about the playoffs, Lance. We are talking about the Jim Mora playoffs. Yes, the playoffs after an 0-3, 1-4 start. This team they've resurrected their season. Tremendous. I can't believe it. I literally can't believe it. And I'm the biggest homer that there is.
Hashtag Homer. And see, that goes to, that goes to, like, people criticize. This goes back to Tomlin when we were talking about Tomlin for Coach of the Year. Listen to your excitement in your voice. Listen to how the Steelers started this season and where they were. And we're talking about playoffs. If they get to the playoffs, he is the Coach of the Year, flat out.
Man, that's freaking crazy. It's awesome. It's exciting. It's intriguing. It's awesome.
And people minimize 8 wins and not having a losing season. People minimize it. Like, not having a losing season is something easy to do in your coaching tenure that's like 13, 14 years in. Like, that's easy to do. Getting wins in the National Football League might be the toughest thing in professional sports. This is hard to do, and they are positioned again to be in a position to not have a losing season.
It just goes to show you how spoiled Steeler fans are, and it's not bad. It's not bad. We're a fickle fan base that expects perfection, and it's not a bad thing. But at the same time, I think, to me at least, this season has been a very it's brought me down to earth as a fan, because you realize how good we have it. And this is not the Mike Tomlin, he's just going to go out there and he has good talent on the team, they're just going to walk all over everybody. No, not that way at all. It's been the total opposite. It's been the, oh my gosh, he's had to scrape and claw and motivate these guys, and they've really resurrected their season. Like I said, Ryan O'Toole puts $2 in the tip jar. He says, what do we do about Bud in the offseason? Do you use the tag or do you try to sign him?
I think you try to sign him initially, and then you use the tag if you can't. I mean, they're in total control of this situation, flat out. So he will be a Steeler next year, whether it be just for one season or more seasons than that. But he will be a Steeler for the 2021 season.
The question that I would want to somehow find out from him and his agency, meaning his agent and things of that nature, would be, if we franchise tag him, what's his response going to be? Because, you look at the Texans with Jadeveon Clowney this preseason, he sat out. He didn't show up. They end up trading him to Seattle. If you're going to franchise tag him, you want him to be there. You want him to play. You want him to perform. And so, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle a lot of decisions this offseason, including Hargrave, including players like Bud Dupree. And there are some other guys that are going to need their attention financially as well. So
let me give you another number. And this was a number, Jeff, that wasn't in the game book. Let me give you the number 46. The Steelers have 46 sacks with 4 games remaining. Dare I say the Steelers are going to, in the first time in their franchise history, have 3 consecutive seasons of 50-plus sacks. They might get like 60-something this year.
Oof. It's incredible. It's incredible because although they do play the Bengals 2 times, the Browns haven't been what they usually are for the Steelers. And that's where they're racking up 8 sacks in a game and stuff like that. That's just not happening. So it's the Steelers are let's wrap up the show by saying this. The Steelers are in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny entering week 14, and that's remarkable. So, Lance, anything final to say to the fans?
Hopefully you guys had an awesome Thanksgiving. Hopefully you guys had an awesome holiday season. As the holidays start to kick off, you brought it in with a great Thanksgiving. Jeff's turkey looked awesome. My turkey was awesome. Hopefully some of you guys had some duck.
Yeah.
Because the duck was best served on Sunday. Nothing left for me other than to say, man, this was a tremendous win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And like you guys coined the Steelers preview show earlier this week, it was put up or shut up time. And they put up. And so, competitive football. And again, this has been a compelling season to watch. And, we're always happier and it's always better when the Steelers continue to win, and they are doing it in every which way and fashion. And this has been an incredible season to watch.
I got to bring this up. Getting bent with Bo said Jeff's turkey wasn't made of tofu. No, it wasn't made of tofu.
Tofurkey. Hashtag Tofurkey.
Nice grilled turkey. You had to check me out on Instagram. I had it all over my story. You could have gotten the recipe and all that stuff, but I digress. So with that said, remember, you all are going to be going back to work most likely on Monday. You're not going to want to work, so why don't you check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for all your Pittsburgh Steelers needs. We'll be talking about this game a lot, as well as check out
like the video.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to really set up your notifications however you like, whether it's push button or email. And then always remember Behind the Steel Curtain.
Here's a challenge. Here's a challenge. If you're listening to the show and you're in the live chat and you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Please subscribe. Get us over 5,000 right now today. Subscribe. Get us to 5,000 as Jeff did his best Baker Mayfield impression back there. He hit something and broke his thumb.
My dog. My dog's head palmed right in my desk. Gosh.
See?
Animal.
DAWGs. Hey, come on, Jeff, man. You're an animal lover. Do not lose all of our subscriptions by hitting your dog.
I'm not. All right. So the 2019 Steelers, that is hashtag take it, hashtag 2 a.m. They win again, 7-5. We will see you next Sunday a little bit later as they play a 4:25 game out in the desert with the Arizona Cardinals. For Lance, I'm Jeff. Subscribe to the channel. Well, Lance, just send us out. Why don't you?
As always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you.